Okay, so what if you could do more than just watch humanity's journey to the stars? What if you were actually in the driver's seat? Today, we're diving into this incredible interactive documentary that literally puts you in charge of our future in space. And right out of the gate, it hits you with this line. This isn't just some sci-fi adventure. This frames the whole thing as a really serious question about ethics and, well, our very survival as a species. And just like that, the spotlight is on you. This isn't a show you just sit back and watch. Nope. It asks you to make your first huge choice, and that one decision shapes everything that follows. So, that brings us to our first section, the dream and the choice. Your whole journey starts right here, and believe me, how you answer that question changes the entire story. See, your answer actually gives you a specific role. If you say yes, you become the traveler. If you say no, you're the observer watching from back on Earth. And if you're on the fence, you become the doubter. It's such a cool way to make the story feel like it's being told just for you. All right, Section 2, your mission, your colony. Now that you know who you are in this story, you've got two more massive decisions to make. Where are you going? And what kind of world are you going to build when you get there? And the choices are wild. Are you going to tackle the brutal but promising environment of Mars? Or maybe use the moon as a strategic launch pad? You could even build a perfect spinning world in orbit or, just head all the way out to the methane lakes of Titan. Each one is a totally different path. So you've picked your new home. Great. Now you're in charge. There's this awesome interactive part where you have to decide where your resources go, what your priorities are. You're basically designing a new society from scratch. And this is where it gets really tricky, because every single decision has a consequence. If you pour everything into science, you might make these incredible discoveries, but are you leaving yourself vulnerable? If you focus too much on security, you might feel safe, but you risk creating a society built on fear. There are no easy answers here.
Let's move on to Section 3, Surviving in the Void. And just as an example, we'll follow the Mars colony path. This is where the simulation gets real. It shifts from those big sweeping decisions to the day-to-day struggle of just staying alive.
Yeah, life on Mars is tough. You're not just some commander in an office anymore, you're a survivor. You're dealing with life or death situations every single day. One mistake, one bad call, and it could all be over. It really shows you how fragile everything is. And just when you think you've finally got a handle on things, settled into a routine, bam, the simulator throws a massive wrench in the works. A signal. And it's definitely not from Earth. Everything stops. This is a moment that could change history. So, what do you do? I mean, this is it. The big one. Your choice here could lead to this amazing new era of cooperation, or it could spark a war that wipes out your colony and maybe even puts all of humanity at risk. The stakes are just unbelievably high. Okay, but just staying alive isn't the whole story, right? That brings us to Section 4, Humanity's Great Debates. Once you've got your colony on its feet, the experience pivots to these really complex, thorny, ethical questions that any new civilization has to face. And you actually get to vote on these huge issues in a kind of virtual town hall. But what's really fascinating is that you can see how people all over the world are voting in real time. It turns into this live, global conversation about where we're headed. Then the simulation throws another scenario at you. And this one is heavy. It's a what-if scenario where Earth is on the brink of collapse, and you have to decide who gets to escape to the stars. And the choice is just brutal. Do you save the so-called best and brightest to give humanity the best shot at survival, knowing it'll create a story of elitism? Or do you prioritize the most vulnerable, creating a legacy of justice? You have to decide what your values really are when everything is on the line. And that brings us to the final section, forging a stellar legacy. This is where everything comes together. All your choices, where you went, how you led, your ethical calls, they all add up to the lives of the first generation of humans born in the world that you built. This is so cool. You can actually walk through your colony in immersive VR and meet the people who live there. You get to see firsthand how your focus on science led to thriving farms, or how your obsession with security created a culture of paranoia. You see the human cost and the human reward of your leadership. The whole journey kind of builds to this one profound idea. Looking back at that tiny blue dot of Earth, you finally get it. The goal was never just about getting away, it was about deciding which parts of humanity were worth saving, and maybe becoming something better in the process.
And so, it leaves you with one last thing to do. On a digital legacy wall, you get to add your own message to a collective time capsule. After everything you've seen, everything you've decided, what would you say? What hope or what warning would you leave for the future?